What's going on, people? It is Chair Shot Chatter here live on Fandom Empire. I'm Sean, joined by Jared Kieran tonight, and big week for AEW. There's a release date for AEW Fight Forever. There's new screenshots, new videos. Let's just say, I guess they're in the home stretch for building this game up, and I, for one, am pretty excited. We have Double or Nothing this Sunday, I believe, live from Las Vegas. Still tickets available if you're in that area, so check it out. And it seems like we probably have our answer, and I just say probably very carefully, on AEW Collision and CM Punk and all that stuff. Joining me tonight, first up, he's the man behind the Dark Match Drive. It's Jared. What's going on, dude?
Not a lot. Trying to catch up on the New Japan Best of the Super Juniors tournament, and failing miserably because there's a show like every day for two weeks straight, and it's just a lot of wrestling. And but all wrestling is good, so
Yeah, you got it. I got full faith. Also joining us tonight, it's Kieran. What's going on, man? You excited? I know you've been going on about this game for a while. It's almost in your hands.
Yeah, I've had it pre-ordered since the minute it was on. I kept going to the store and be like, "Are the pre-orders yet? Have you heard about this AEW game yet?"
What?
I've had some money down on it for quite a while, and I'm pretty patient at waiting for things. But once it gets to a date and it's only a month away or so, that's when you're. I can put it if a movie's not being made for another year and a half, I could really easily be like, yeah, whatever, who cares? I don't have to sit around every day thinking about it. But when it gets to a month away, I'm pretty excited. Yeah, so very excited. And Jared actually believes that all wrestling is good. He's not lying. He'll watch anything.
Oh yeah,
it never surprises me what comes out of his mouth at this point.
It's me.
Our multiple choice question for this video is: who do you think will win the Four Pillars match at Double or Nothing? Comment down below. MJF, Sammy, Darby, or Jungle Kid Boy, City Boy, whatever the hell his name is.
Hey, Jungle Jim Steele ain't booked.
You don't like Jungle Boy? Is that what you're saying?
Can't stand him.
I am shocked.
Dude has no fucking presence on the microphone whatsoever. Obviously can do all sorts of amazing things in ring, but actually it's this guy up here who had the Jungle Boy rant a few weeks ago. I just sat back and let him go off, and it turned out we were in similar places with him. So,
if you win the match based on best hair, then I mean he's getting the title. But other than that, yeah.
Who's winning this match, fellas? I got MJF. To me, they can't touch MJF.
Yeah, it's MJF.
There's no reason for him to lose it right now. It's just,
no.
A better question would have been who do you think is the next likely? Because I think pretty much everyone expects MJF to win. But one of the things that we've learned about AEW over the years is they don't at all care about throwing a wrench in. I mean, a lot of people call bad booking. They'll be like, "Oh, well, this guy should have gone over," because they're so used to the way it's done in North America, and quite often they throw a curveball in there. So I'm not saying it's 100%. There's quite a few matches in WWE where I'll be like, it's 100%. There's not a 1%. There's not a 0.5%. It's 100% that Roman Reigns is going over, or Gunther's not going to lose to Mustafa Ali this weekend.
Roman's not winning 100%. On Saturday.
Sorry?
Roman's not winning on Saturday.
This is true. Yeah. But in AEW, it does happen. Quite often, I'm like, well, the story is this guy's got to lose again before he wins at the cage match, next month or whatever. And you just think that that's the pattern, that you were born knowing that it has to be 50-50 booking, or it has to be. And quite often AEW doesn't do that. So
I do think there's been more evidence of them doing that lately than there was earlier, though. One of the biggest ones that comes to mind to me is the Punk Moxley squash thing. And then there was another one. That
had some weird circumstances behind it, though.
You could argue that Wardlow has been in that situation twice now. So...
That's all they're doing with Wardlow.
I think... Oh, man.
If you're going to strap the rocket to the guy, then strap the rocket to him. Don't, build him up for, 6 weeks and then cut his balls off. Not once, but twice. And now he's damaged goods. Nobody believes in Wardlow right now, and it's the fault of the booking. He was hot coming off that MJF thing, and, they didn't know what they wanted to do with him.
You know what's terrible, actually, is that they had a Wardlow Powerhouse Hobbs program that made them both look bad.
Yeah.
Nobody came out.
Powerhouse Hobbs, a giant fucking, he's a huge man, and he had to cheat
the meat missile.
Wardlow, and then Wardlow got it back, and it was well, all right, so the unstoppable babyface didn't win, and the cheating bad guy just lost it again later, and he's hanging out with QT Marshall. That's, I don't know.
Before we get into our three main topics for this episode, I just want to ask you guys if you've seen the video that I think it was AEW put out yesterday of Stokely in Jacksonville, and he's going into this office, and he's setting this office up as his own. And he sits down at a desk, and he's looking at the TV. It never shows his face, but it's Stokely. And I feel like we're supposed to be getting could he be the GM of Collision sort of thing vibes going on in the video. I'll have to see if I can pull it up. At the end of the video with the TV, he clicks a remote, and it does the Punk static thing. And I was like, oh, okay. That was sort of what made me think things were going back in a positive direction. I'll see if we can find it here. I don't think we'll get taken down for it, but I know some people were assuming that meant that the dailies place thing might be true, but I don't think that's the case. Of course, now I can't find it. Anyway, oh no, here it is. So I'm
Well,
gonna
you
try
are
to.
disappearing right now, so it's pretty hard.
Yeah, well, I am trying to rectify that situation. So, yeah, let's have a peek at this. Let me kill the music. We might get taken down for this, so we'll see.
Just leave that giant chair shot logo in the middle. That'll we'll never get taken down.
I'm glad you pointed that out because I would have left it up in the middle. All right, here we go. Nope, you don't want that. That's what we want.
But that's life. That's what the people say. You're riding high in April, shot down in May.
Just gonna pause it here for a second because I'm sure that's a licensed song that's gonna get us triggered down here. I dig the way it's put together, though.
That looks pretty cool right now.
I gotta change that tune.
Killer mustache. I just love that one.
On top in June. That's life. As funny as it may seem.
What if Stokely's gonna run the Jacksonville Jaguars?
Some people get their kicks from stomping on a dream. But I never let it get me down. As sure as this big old world keeps spinning around.
Oh, this is amazing.
I've been a puppet, pauper, pirate, a poet, a pawn and a king. I've been up and down, over and out. But I know one thing.
I'll do the best I can, but what I got.
Oh!
So, I'm not saying it relates to Punk at all, but I have a feeling he's going to be the guy, or at least maybe one of the figureheads on Collision. Frankly, I think the guys deserve more TV time. I find him quite entertaining. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
100%. He is so good. And I was thrilled when he got hired by AEW, but he's really just been like a background character. And unfortunately, he's way too good for that role. And hopefully this leads to something where he can actually be used to his full potential. Because, I mean, he's been with guys who, I mean, the firm is fine, but
it's getting deleted right now, is it not? Isn't that the whole thing that's going on? It's getting deleted, so maybe
well, hopefully, you know, he can kill that dead and move on and do something else and actually be appreciated for the work he can do.
He had mentioned in a real interview that he was supposed to work with Punk post All Out. They didn't say what, but that they were supposed to work together. And I'm not saying in relation to Punk necessarily, whether he's there or not, but like it'd be really cool if they're gonna like put him in a prominent role on Saturday nights. Like, I think he's a guy. I'm not trying to draw an intentional comparison to like Teddy Long or anything, but like I think he could be Collision's Teddy Long more or less, if not far more entertaining. Kieran?
I mean, he'd have to get a little bit out of his heel role, but he's really good. His whole thing about having the broken arm with Hook and having the match against Hook was amazing. He sold that so well. And yeah, that whole thing was great. He's definitely very good and comedic, but he's also really good in being really intense. It's like a kind of a it's like, you know, it's like his secondary thing. He can also be really intense and yell at people to go kick this guy's ass, and you know, anything where he can bulge his eyes out will do. So I think he's really good, and yeah, he could definitely be a GM, but I don't know if they want a heel GM, so he would have to probably resemble more like Teddy Long or, you know, any of the other general managers that were somewhere in the middle there, but someone comedic. I mean, unless he's going to be, I guess Regal as a GM was a heel, and still.
That's so funny you said that, because my mind first went to NXT, and I was like, no, he was a babyface there, and I completely blanked on his WWF run from like 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah. Well, when Jericho peed in his tea and stuff like that, I think he was GM during that.
I think so, or like just
it was around that period.
Yeah, because it was right off the invasion angle, right?
Yeah, well, and then he got fired by kissing Mr. McMahon's butt or whatever, right?
Yep.
Great times. Oh, you're on mute.
I wasn't muted. Let's dive into this. AEW Fight Forever. It's coming. June the 29th, 2023, on several platforms. There are images out today of it. I just had a couple here, but in the meantime, I just want your guys' thoughts on the game. I don't know someone personally who has played it. We're going to play some telephone tag here, but I do know someone who knows somebody who has played it. And it's just that and you guys might know these references better than me, because I have not played all of the wrestling games that have come out over time. But one of the big things that they had said to me was that it feels like it's the type of game that if you still have a local video game arcade, you put your 25 cents in, or $2 nowadays, and you play the game against a buddy of yours, and you just have fun. It's not going to graphically blow you away. The graphics are behind. They just are. It's not a simulation game. It's an arcade game. And that, however, though, like if it's a game that you're going to play a lot, you're still going to have like a leg up on those who barely play. But those who barely play aren't going to be fucking lost like they are on 90% of video games nowadays. Johnny was on here last week talking about an extensive, is it a career mode, basically, he was going on about. And I've heard 3 game comparisons. 2 of them I know, 1 of them I don't. No Mercy is the biggest one that is being compared to. Story-wise, SmackDown 2 it's being compared to, which makes some sense, because I think of all the SmackDown games, that had the most expansive storylines and cutscenes and all that. And then they mentioned some WWE Raw game, but they're not talking like SNES. Apparently one that came out for like the Xbox 360 or the Xbox or something like that.
Yeah.
I remember that. I didn't play it, but I can like visualize the cover of it.
They basically said, hey, you're going to have to pay full price for this game. That's just the way it is. So you're not getting, a full price EA NFL type game, right, with full simulation and all that. But I think if you're okay with a game that feels like, an arcade game, and I think the pictures that are on Dark Match Drive on Facebook with the blood, like, let's be honest, the blood looks pretty shitty on the ring, but I also think it looks fucking cool. Like, hey, just fucking V-trigger someone and watch the blood go everywhere. It doesn't need... If when you go to pay, if you're Canadian, $100 for this game, no, you don't think it's gonna be $100? I think
I already know it's $60.
That's not bad.
It's on GameStop. It's $60. You can already pre-order it.
I mean, like the Elite version is probably more, right?
Yeah, but they haven't released anything about that yet.
Because I was gonna say standard, so they're not charging standard AAA price games. And standard AAA game right now, $79.99,
right?
Yep.
So that's kind of cool. Then, if they're gonna knock $20 off of it, that might not mean some to much. It means the world to me. But if when you're gonna sit down and play this thing, that you're not playing some simulation masterpiece, and that it is an arcade game, there is no reason that you can't have all the fun in the world with it. The big thing for me is I don't want the bugs to be crazy at launch. It seems like every new game that comes out now is being released in barely a beta form.
Yeah, day one patch is a ridiculously common thing now, because they just want to get the game out there and then we'll fix it later. Like, no, just release the game that works and then patch as you need to. Like, it's dumb.
It is, and it's companies taking advantage of the situation. I'm actually really, really excited for this game. Like, I cannot remember the last time I was this excited for a wrestling game, even though it's going to look cheesy, but there's no reason that it can't look cheesy and you still have a ton of fun with it. And there's still like some from what I understand, there's a ton of options in this game with when it comes to creating a wrestler, creating an arena. You can get really goofy with it. I know you can with the WWE games too, although I haven't played one in like half a decade. But I'm really excited for the game. Kieran, I know you're not the biggest gamer in the world, man, but everything you've heard and seen on this, what are your expectations for it?
I mean, I haven't ordered a new game. I just broke out my NES the other day and played 30-year-old games instead.
I saw that. That was entertaining to watch.
It was pretty fun.
Yeah.
It was pretty fun. I could play Batman on NES for hours and hours and hours. I think the last game I was this excited about was actually the Star Wars Rogue Squadron game. That Squadrons came out. Anyways, I was really excited for that one, and it was slightly disappointed. But anyways, I have done almost nothing since then. I bought Elden Ring, and I played it for a while, but yeah, not really a gamer at all. But I've had this one pre-ordered the minute you could. I put some money down on it. I'm gonna switch to the Elite version if it's available whenever I can pre-order. I already made sure you can do that. I can take my money out and put it towards another version of the game. I've definitely been hanging around waiting for this video game to come out. I know some of the options, they're like, they say they're extensive, but not compared to WWE is from what I've heard. It's like Create a Wrestler is not going to be quite as extensive as the WWE games, which you can almost do anything with. You can create almost any wrestler with almost any moves. Like it's really hard to envision being better than the WWE game in that sort of way. They did announce something pretty interesting, which is that they will be able to add match types and things like that by DLC. It hasn't been announced, so we can't say that that's for sure, but that's something that WWE hasn't done before. So like in a match listing, there wasn't a steel cage match, and everyone was like, no steel cage match? That makes no sense. And they were like, yeah, but we can add it into the game in DLC. And it might be there now. This was an article from late last year. But anyways, they've said that not only will you be able to download characters, there's 50 people in the original roster, but there'll be downloaded characters all the time. And they've also announced that this game is not really going to be updated all the time. There's not going to be a 2024 out next year and a 2025 out the year after that. Which really makes sense because the graphics being kind of cartoony and they're very modeled after No Mercy and the movement of characters and the arcade feel. It means they can add characters and it doesn't have to be updated graphics every year. They don't have to buy a new game every year. You'll be downloading characters, you'll be downloading arenas, you'll be downloading match types, and they'll be continually adding onto this game. They basically called it a forever game.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there'll definitely be another one of this one's even semi-good. But for the love of God, yeah, no yearly title nonsense. There's just no need for it. It's too much fucking money, and you don't get enough new things when they release a new title every year for any game. Doesn't matter which sports one it is. You can be the biggest fucking football fan on the planet, and they're still milking you for your money. So I like the idea
it's
that
every like 3 years that they actually get better. Like every third year, you'll be like, oh wow, the graphics are amazing, but the next year, I don't know.
Right? Yeah, give me another AEW game in 2026. Make this one last. Jer, how about you, man? What are your thoughts on just the overall process of AEW Fight Forever and what the overall product looks like it's going to be leading up to launch?
Honestly, I appreciate that they've been pretty open with expectations for the game. They've been very realistic with, this is going to be an arcade game. You're going to want to, get your buddies and, play this game. And it's not a simulation, and it's going to be like those games you grew up playing. And I think that's really cool because it's not something that is available in the market. I mean, if you want to go play WCW versus NWO Revenge, you got to go dust off, the N64, or you got to play a stupid emulator. So the fact that we're going to have access to a game like this, where we don't need to be like, oh, I need to book this Raw before the pay-per-view, which, hey, that's totally cool if you're into that. And, sometimes that's absolutely cool. But, I mean, there is a lot of wrestling simulator games out there now. Even, just WWE 2K23. Like, it's an oversaturated thing where WWE kind of releases the same product every year. I mean, the graphics are a little better. There's a few less bugs. There's a little different roster, but they've released the same game for the last, 3-4 years. And, oh, hey, this one has legends. So did the fucking last one. So, the fact that we can play an AEW game that, okay, hey, you know what? It's not going to win any best graphics awards, and that's totally fine. I know what Bryan Danielson looks like. I know what, MJF looks like. And if I can figure out who I'm playing with, I'm okay with it. So I'm excited for the game just because, I grew up playing the N64 games, and, sometimes you just want to turn your brain off and, play with Aki Man.
Have we heard of Owen Hart's in this game?
Ooh, good question. I don't think it's been mentioned. I would not be surprised, though.
Yeah, I suspect that. I don't know if he'll be paid DLC, but I suspect he'll be coming.
Yeah.
They seem to have a deal to add him to a lot of things, so I would not at all be. Oh, he's on a roster page I'm looking at right now.
Oh, good.
Fantastic.
But yeah, AEW Fight Forever, June the 29th. It's finally almost here. I'm excited. I cannot wait to dive into this. Jer, I think, is getting it for PlayStation. I'm getting it for Xbox. I doubt there's crossover capability, and I'm assuming Kieran's PlayStation. Are you?
I'm Xbox now. I don't have a PlayStation.
Awesome, sweet. So we'll be able to play together at least. So kudos to that. All right, let's keep the ball rolling, fellas. Double or Nothing is this weekend. Off the top, we talked about the Pillars match with our multiple choice question in this video. We all said MJF is going to win this match. What else on this pay-per-view has you the most intrigued? I'll start with Kieran.
I mean, it's hard to say because it's actually like a very weak-looking card on paper. I mean, this title match is not super exciting. I mean, because we assume we know the end. There's a match with the Hardys and the Firm. There's a match with Jade Cargill and Taya Valkyrie, which is, that program hasn't really been that great. I still haven't seen the Ultimate Firm deletion or whatever the hell it's called. It was on Friday, so I didn't see it. So I don't know about that match.
I'll hook you up.
Oh, there you go. Well, there you go. Well, at least I'll get that. I really am excited to see FTR versus Jeff Jarrett and who's that guy?
Jay Lethal.
Jay Lethal. I'm thinking about him in his Macho Man gimmick there, but I'm actually excited about that because that has been a really good program in my opinion. I really like the stuff that they've done involving them boys there. I enjoy Sanjay Dutt. I even enjoy Satnam Singh. So I think he's actually pretty good in his role. So I think the program's been really good, and I think FTR will go there and show us once again why they're really, really good wrestlers. So and Jeff Jarrett's, like I said before, I can't remember if it was last week. He's like impressing me more right now than he has in most of his career. So I'm actually excited to see that one.
So
if this is you talking again, Sean, you are muted again.
No.
So, what I'm looking forward to most is probably the Anarchy in the Arena match. I think the build has been really fantastic, episodic weekly TV. And this has been going on for 6 weeks or so now, and we've got other characters involved. We've got Don Callis and Takeshita and Hangman coming back, and so it's really cool that, like, okay, we're gonna get 8 guys who are going to put together this insane match. Because if you remember the match last year, I mean, you had Eddie Kingston covered in blood carrying a can of gas to the ring right before the finish. So, I mean, they're not afraid to go absolutely insane with this match, and I expect nothing less from these guys. And that should be fun. I don't know where they'll go with it, but we'll deal with that when we get there. I'm intrigued by Adam Cole and Chris Jericho in the unsanctioned match because, I mean, you figure they can't really do too much in the way of weapons and so on, because they'd save that for the 8-man. But I do think this match has been really well built. You can believe that Adam Cole wants to murder Chris Jericho, and I think the match is Jericho's hit or miss when it comes to the big matches. He can still absolutely, blow it away. But I think this match, Adam Cole absolutely needs to go over, because it not only does it do nothing for Jericho to beat Adam Cole, but it will make Adam Cole look really bad after watching his girlfriend get the shit beat out of her. And thus far, outside of, beating on Jericho for a minute outside the building, he hasn't really gotten his comeuppance. And I don't think this is an angle where, Jericho goes over and then they'll do the big finish somewhere else. Like, you could have Adam Cole go over and then continue this angle. Jericho can do something else to be a shithead, but he doesn't need to win the match. So I'm really interested to see kind of not only what they do, but kind of how that match goes, and kind of what limits they put on themselves within the unsanctioned match to not hurt the Anarchy in the Arena match. Christian in a ladder match is always fun. I mean, I have no idea if Wardlow's going to retain. I have no faith in Wardlow, as we've discussed. Jamie Hayter and Tony Storm had a banger when Hayter won the title, and I'm really excited for that rematch.
Hayter's apparently hurt.
Oh, I mean, it wouldn't hurt to put the belt on Tony Storm and have it actually be treated as, hey, this is a legit title reign, rather than, retroactively treating it as such. And I think Tony Storm would be perfectly fine as a heel champion. So that would be cool.
I guess we'll find out this weekend. Like, if it's a quick match and she goes over, then
yeah, exactly.
I
think Taya Valkyrie wins the title, just because we've waited long enough for Chris Statlander, and even if she is healthy, like, you'd have to reinsert her into a feud and build it up again, and it's not worth it. Just beat Cargill, like, whatever. I mean,
don't turn her into Goldberg.
Well, she's been in such a holding pattern. She's not even doing anything interesting. They're manufacturing people. I mean, Taya the exception, but just no.
I thought they were going to really do the whole, she holds on to the belt and then here comes Mercedes Moné and she'd be the one to do it, and obviously she just got hurt and took that bad fall at that New Japan show and has a broken ankle. And if she has signed with AEW, which some have speculated, she
ain't winning a title anytime soon.
Yeah, All In maybe.
Yeah,
she actually got it's actually turned out to be a broken foot, I think, which is better.
Oh,
Yeah, because I guess she was going to do a
I think a
sunset off
broken
the
foot
top,
is
and
better
then
than a broken ankle.
yeah, she fell from the
Oh,
top
right
turnbuckle
outside.
basically all the way to the floor and landed on her feet, but obviously
It was initially reported as an ankle, and
Yeah.
then I saw a retracted statement earlier saying it was actually a
Looks
broken
painful.
foot.
I mean,
Yeah,
ideally, an ankle
it's still
would
not fun, and it's still going to take a while.
an ankle would be best case scenario, though, right? Like, I mean, the foot you got a bunch more bones to deal with. I think
broken foot is better.
Is it? Okay.
Yep.
Pepsi Phil might disagree. Like, if Anarchy in the Arena is anything like Jericho versus Strong, sign me up. If it's anything that's not that, I'm not for it. Like, I want to see these guys go all over Vegas. Like, fucking get out right in front of the MGM and just fucking go at it, right? Like, do something over the top and entertaining. And then the Jericho thing can be, a little less than that, obviously. But, like, I really hope that we're not confined to just the ring area with this match, because that would be a disappointment considering how bad the blood is between the two groups.
I think there's very, very little chance of that. I don't know if you remember the last, not only did they have that whole thing with him in the gas can, with Eddie Kingston in the gas can. Remember, like, they had the music playing for like the first 5 minutes of the match. Like, it was, it didn't even know when it was supposed to start. There was guys everywhere. It was basically a more hardcore version of the Stadium Stampede. And it basically replaced the Stadium Stampede as well. But I think the reason they did that was because Stadium Stampede, there was lots of jokes in it. There was Matt Hardy coming out of the water, and there was,
Urban
Hangman
Meyer
riding a horse
in his office.
A random bar fight where like Conan was in the background being a DJ or something stupid like that. Like, there was lots of goofy stuff in that match. And then when Anarchy in the Arena happened, like, okay, well, we want to do Stadium Stampede, but it's not a joke because we have lots of really mean assholes in this one. Like, it's not. So so if you count that as like a trilogy of that type of event, they've all gone everywhere. They've had multiple cameras following different characters, crazy spots. It's like, it's a great name for the match, Anarchy in the Arena, because it really is like, who the fuck knows what we're going to see. So I really doubt it's going to be like a typical hardcore match. It's going to be that this show that they put on once a year where everybody goes everywhere, and it's quite a production. I really strongly believe that it's going to be like that. So hopefully you won't be disappointed.
I hope not. Definitely want it to be live up to the hype. I will say this, considering where they are in this feud right now, before I was hard pressed to see this thing even making it to Double or Nothing. Now I kind of sit here and go, I don't think this thing can end at Double or Nothing. Regardless of what happens in the match, I think it's too soon to end it.
Oh yeah.
No, I think it should run for a while.
Yeah, this is match 2 in the series.
I said this could run for 6 months. Now that's probably not going to happen, but it could run for 3 months, I think, for sure. It could run for another 2 months on top of however long it's been.
Well, depending on what happens with AEW Collision, and if this roster split does happen, early indications have been that the Elite and the Blackpool Combat Club might all be on Dynamite, although I don't know about Bryan Danielson, which we have not covered yet, who is apparently going to be helping out with creative with AEW Collision. So that was I
think I'm pretty sure at the end of this, like, I really think at the end of this, Blackpool Combat Club will break up. I think it's a fun stable, and it's definitely different than anything that's been done before, in my opinion. But I think it's got too many stars in it who need to eventually do, like, I mean, it's not holding back Danielson, because Danielson doesn't want to be the top guy anywhere. Moxley gets a little bit of a break from being the top guy, but he's going to be back there again soon. But like, Claudio is just kind of being handcuffed by being in this thing, and he doesn't really belong in it. and Wheeler Yuta can get fired for all I care. So.
I was going to say Wheeler Yuta greatly benefits from this thing because when he's not in it, I got
he's the one who benefits from it by now he has a personality. It's I'm the bitch of the BCC.
Basically, yeah.
I did want to circle back to one thing, if we can.
Yeah.
I would really, really love. I didn't know Jared was going to bring up all of the matches, but I would really like for Christian to win that title. I think Christian with the championship would be like it would be great TV.
Man, how many times?
It's crazy. Every time
the title, if he loses again.
Yeah, I know. That's the poor part, but I don't know. Whatever. Maybe
if he's healthy, I'd love to see him win the title. Fuck Wardlow. It's
maybe. I mean, maybe Christian winning and having a little bit of a feud. Christian could probably be a person to get Wardlow back on track.
Yeah.
He hasn't really done a lot with him yet. The program hasn't been front and center very much. But Christian's a good enough heel to get any face over. So I think him with the title would be money for sure. Like it's funny every time he disappears and comes back and he just comes in and says like 3 words to the crowd. You're like, oh fuck, this guy's so good. Like can he just wrestle forever? Like I know he's pretty old now, but like he doesn't really need to have great matches. He just comes out there and he's really good at inciting crowd. He's a true heel. He's not a heel who you cheer for. He's a heel who comes out and like everyone's like, fuck that guy. Like
I fucking love Christian.
He's really good at what he does. He's really good at what he does. And so I would love to see him win that belt. Because
Sorry, go ahead.
It's well, damn, Wardlow's gonna lose the belt again. Well, Wardlow's at a 0 right now. Like he's ice cold. It doesn't matter what you do with him. You can repackage him. You can put him whatever. Like you're going to have to figure out something to get him back, but keeping this title for a while is not going to do it. So
no, like he's going to beat some guys that we know he's going to beat. I mean, Christian at least creates interesting foil for Wardlow if it's a longer term thing. I mean, obviously people want to see Luchasaurus and Wardlow because it's the 2 big guys, which is fine. But I mean, yeah, Wardlow is just dead in the water. And I mean, if they can keep Christian kind of within the peripheral, even if they do move the angle to Luchasaurus, then it will benefit Wardlow because Christian has a lot of heat.
Well, speaking of guys that only like to work 8-minute matches, Lee Bowers asks, Sean, honest opinion, would Brock Lesnar do better in AEW? I'm going to throw that question. I'm going to direct it to the 2 guys that are far smarter at wrestling than I am. Kieran, Jer, would Brock Lesnar do better in AEW?
I would say no, and the reason is because he does as best as I think he could possibly do in WWE. Like, would he do good in AEW? A lot of people be like, oh, well, he's going to wrestle a bunch of lighter wrestlers than him. He's not going to have these giant versus Bobby Lashley matches and stuff. He can, like, Brock Lesnar can wrestle lighter wrestlers just because he had a bad match against Dean Ambrose and, a couple other guys, and it was blamed on, well, you need a giant. No, he wrestled Kurt Angle for a long time. When he first came in, he wrestled a bunch of light guys. Brock Lesnar tossing around tiny guys it's good too. And he's not, at this point, he's not like he can't be beat. Someone can super kick him and it's believable. We've seen it before.
He literally lost 2 weeks ago.
I think he could do okay in AEW, or he could do good to great, but how could he possibly do better than he does in WWE? He shows up, everyone loves him. It doesn't matter whether he's a good guy or a bad guy. He can sell both. He's wrestled almost everyone in the company. He's gotten that status now where he can lose 5 in a row, and he still shows up, and everyone's like, oh, shit, Brock Lesnar. It doesn't matter. So my answer is no, because I think he's at his max potential in WWE. I think he's way better than he was in his first run with the WWE. Like, his first run with the WWE was really good and cool, but like, he just keeps getting better. He's honestly like, he's been able to change his persona a little bit too, and do Cowboy Brock and do kind of kind of comedy, and he can be a good guy. He was a good guy and a bad guy on the same show not too long ago. He came in and they were like, "Oh, he's gonna help him defeat Roman Reigns. Brock Lesnar's my favorite wrestler," and then he fucking murdered Cody, and then everyone's like, "Oh, that Brock Lesnar! I fucking hope he dies." Like he did this. He did both extremes in the same show. That's how good he is.
Brock's initial return WWE run with Cena, and then Triple H, and then Punk, and then Undertaker, to me that like set him up for the rest of his career with the way those things went. I can't say if he'd be any better in AEW or not, but sign me up for Anarchy in the Arena, Brock Lesnar versus Darby Allin, and I will watch that.
Well, that's the thing. So yes, AEW is full of smaller guys, but we've seen Brock Lesnar have fantastic matches with AJ Styles, with Bryan Danielson, with Finn Balor. So he can work a style with smaller guys. I mean, obviously he picks them up and throws them around a bunch, but it's not out of his wheelhouse to put together a match like that. And he will sell for these guys. And I think Kieran's right that the Brock Lesnar we're getting in WWE right now is probably the version of Brock we would get in AEW. We wouldn't get, 2003 Brock Lesnar doing, long wrestling matches with Kurt Angle and doing all these flips and stuff like that. That Brock is dead. Brock knows what works for Brock, and he's going to stick to it. And that's just what he is. And I don't think it matters where he is, whether it's WWE, AEW, New Japan. Brock Lesnar is Brock Lesnar. And no matter where he is, that's not going to change. And lucky for us, Brock Lesnar being Brock Lesnar is pretty damn entertaining guy.
Yeah, I've enjoyed him. I think Vince McMahon can be a problem sometimes when it comes to Brock. But like I watched the Brock versus Cody match. It was like the next day I seen it, but like I enjoyed it for what it was. I thought the finish was weak, but I don't know. I find Brock Lesnar entertaining. Like when Lesnar comes out during that Hogan celebration there, and you got Piper and Hogan and Hall and Nash and everybody in the ring, and I'm just sitting there like, oh my God, he's just gonna F5 them all. He's just gonna come down there and F5 them all. He's Brock Lesnar. If anything, I think the thing that hurt Brock Lesnar the most is Roman Reigns. Because Roman Reigns is undefeatable, and then after losing to Brock a few times, he started to make cakewalk out of Brock. And it's hard to have two guys like that going at once, in my opinion.
I mean, he had to use a dump truck the last time he beat him, so that doesn't really count.
Lee Bauer says, what's your all thoughts on the doctors wanting Randy Orton to retire?
I mean, I get it. Unfortunately, he's been pretty consistent for 20 years. He's had an injury here or there. Like he had the shoulder injury, the first shoulder injury, and then the second one, which, changed the way he set up for the RKO going forward. But yeah, like he's pretty healthy for most of his career. And unfortunately, I mean, time catches up with everyone, and Randy Orton's body finally gave out on him to the point of, maybe he can't do it anymore. And I think he would be perfectly fine in a backstage role doing, being an agent or something if he wanted to take on that role. But I mean, hey, a 20-year WWE career, I mean, he's not hurting for money. He's not hurting for a legacy of pretty great matches. And, there are people who don't like his style, but I've always enjoyed him for the most part.
I think he's one of the best ever in my books. Like, I'm not saying he's top 10, but like you talk top 50 wrestlers of all time, Randy Orton's on that list.
Yeah, like he's a really great wrestler who has a legacy, and, maybe he wanted to go out differently, but you don't get that opportunity in wrestling. Usually it's the doctors that make that decision for you.
Yeah, It's hard. It's hard to say because the doctors don't want people to wrestle at all. So
Yeah.
you're like, if you're the doctor for a professional stuntman, your doctor is going to tell you this is a terrible job. You should stop, no matter the condition of your body. I mean, Edge was told to stop or he would die. Danielson was told to stop or he's going to be paralyzed. Like, your doctor is giving you sound advice for sure, because at any time, any of this can happen. And when you're older, it's way more likely to happen. I just found that out. I've been hurting myself left, right, and center this year. I'm currently off of work with a bummed ankle when I tore some tendons. And it's totally something that when I was younger, I would have been fine. I would have got up and walked away. But this is getting old. The doctors are going to tell you not to do it. I think Randy Orton wrestles a style that he could probably do for a long time, because he wrestles a pretty good style. He doesn't have to take a lot of bumps. And I mean, other than the fact that his own finisher is kind of a bump.
He did mention last year in an interview that he might have to drop the RKO because of the years of damage it's done.
Just give him a submission move. Call it the fucking Viper's Venom or something stupid like that. Like whatever. It can't be any worse than CM Punk's finisher.
Cena's gone. He can take the STF. Might look better too.
It's called the snare trap now, and Jungle Boy does it.
Yeah. Okay.
I know you bunch of Jungle Boy haters, pieces of shit.
Yeah, I'll give him credit. He actually he makes that look good. I will say Jungle Boy's STF actually looks pretty good.
He's talented as shit in ring. I don't know. He doesn't have a lick of charisma compared to his dad.
No, he's got a really weird, nervous teenager voice when he's on the mic, and it's got to work on that. But yeah. I don't know.
You should have been taking tips from Christian. Obviously, he thought that maybe following advice wasn't in his forte of things to do.
Yeah.
Well, I think he was trying to follow Christian, and then Christian actually turned his back on him and beat the shit out of him. So he's like, well, maybe I'll stick with my own thing.
No, I meant clearly behind the scenes, not on screen. Just learning from who you're working with.
Wrestling's fake.
It's real to me. Lesnar / Angle is my favorite Iron Man match of all time. This is going to sound cliche, but mine's Brett and Sean. I know it's 0-0. I know it's a marathon, but man, those guys work their ass off in that match.
I think my new favorite Iron Man match is the MJF and Danielson one.
It's good.
I thought it was really good. Until then, my favorite was Brett and Sean, and I know a lot of people think it's boring. I have sat down and watched that hour-long match, hour and 15-minute long match, several times, like 15 or 20 times. So it's not boring to me. I like the dueling back and forth. I like the headlock takeover, roll out of the ring, try to look at the other guy. What the fuck? How can I not get this guy? I like the psychology being played in that match. If someone tells me it's boring, I'm like, you're right. It's kind of boring. It's like, I like the movie No Country for Old Men. And if someone's like, man, that movie's boring, I'm like, you're right. But it's fantastic. So doesn't matter.
All right. Before we wrap up.
Sorry. Sorry. I didn't even answer the question. I don't remember the Angle Lesnar. I don't remember them having an Iron Man match.
They did.
I do remember that program and all of.
Yeah, Chair gets involved in a big way.
All of the matches that they had, though, were all great in my as far as I remember, they did not have a bad match at all, and it was a great rivalry. So
that WrestleMania spot. Eesh.
Speaking of Iron Man matches, y'all need to go watch Rick Rude versus Ricky Steamboat from Beach Blast 1992.
I recently watched it. It's amazing.
So good.
Oh man!
I brought it up to you not too long ago.
You did.
How much fun was it?
I posted the poster for the show because you brought it up.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, you're right.
I loved Rick Rude. Rick Rude was the man.
So good.
We briefly mentioned AEW Collision a little earlier tonight, and before we went on air, Jer basically had the latest on the Punk thing from Fightful Select, and if you want the full report, definitely go sign up for their Patreon page, and it's well worth it. But in a nutshell, it sounds as if things should go off without a hitch tomorrow, and there's been a whole lot of misreporting and there's definitely drama there for sure. But a lot of people making it out to be something it's not seems to be where it's heading. Any thoughts, guys? I'm a Punk guy, as everybody knows, and even I'm fucking worn out from this shit. It's just like, yeah, I think I messaged Jer or Matt or something like that earlier this week where I was just like, just fucking fire him. If this is all true, fire him and move the fuck on, please. Clearly it wasn't true, a lot of it. I just want AEW Collision. I want Saturday Night Wrestling. So final thoughts here over the next 5 to 10 minutes, guys. Saturday Night Wrestling, CM Punk. Predictions. Do they announce? We'll start with that. Is the United Center announced tomorrow night?
Yes.
I'm going with yes.
Yes.
That makes sense. In fact, I you know what? I think the crowd would probably be fine because they'd be waiting till the end of the show for CM Punk to come. So there would be no boos until the last minute when they're like, wait a minute, that last match ended. Nobody's coming out. Boo! And then it's like cut off. So it wouldn't matter. They'd be hype anyhow. Chicago's a great crowd. It wouldn't matter.
Or we just put a heel on top at the end of the show, and then when they realize Punk's not coming, everyone will just think the crowd's just booing the heel as they go off the air.
There you go.
Man, Jake Hager's really over.
Man.
He's got nuclear heat. Jake Hager rips the hat in two, and everyone boos. Oh my God!
No.
So there's been this thing going around about Daly's Place being a backup, which when you look at it logically, that does make sense, you know. However, you know, despite what Wrestling Observer and Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez have been pushing, and to be honest, those guys are right sometimes. If they were never right, they'd have nobody following them. I know everybody likes to jump on the Dave hate train, but like he's got like what, three or 4 decades well in the public eye in this industry.
Dave Meltzer was like taking pictures of wrestlers with his camera in like the 70s or
he's been writing a newsletter since the late 70s.
Yeah, like it. The thing is, like, yeah, he hasn't been getting, like, he's been kind of like getting crazier as the years go on. I thought his whole star rating thing was great until he started going like, wait, no, now there's 5.5, now there's 6 stars, now there's 8 stars. And like, as these things went on, I was like, what the, like, I'm not really a big fan of this Meltzer guy anymore. And then his reporting has been a little bit flawed in the last, I'd say 3 years, maybe. But like, he was a very solid source for 30 years, like the best source backstage probably for 30 years. Like
he was the guy Vince called when he was booking the Invasion angle.
Like it just like it's sad when things like that happen, but you know, whatever. It actually happens. It happens in football journalism. It happens in basketball journalism. I know there's guys who used to be the guy to go to, and then eventually you're like, well, that guy doesn't really have a shit. This is the guy now. So
let's do a little timeline on this before we get out of here. Last week we're expecting CM Punk to be a part of the promotional material for AEW Collision and the WBD upfronts. Did not happen. And then
now he was supposed to be and was removed.
Yeah, to be clear, none of them were there in person, which is not what the event was originally supposed to be. They were all supposed to be there in person, similar to what they'd done an event before where the Elite and Cody Rhodes and Tony Khan and some other people were there. WBD typically does this. There's a writer's strike going on right now, and they decided no in-person talent from any show or project or movie. So they weren't there in person. He was removed. They got him off of every piece of media possible with the exception of one, and then shit hit the fan when that one got out there. And then it comes to light. And like, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I just got to ask you guys' take on this. And some people might be surprised by my take on it. That he wants a steal back. And like the idea of that's just fucking bonkers to me. And then it comes out from House of Wrestling or House of Wrestling, however, I think it's House of Wrestling, with Nick Hausman, who's actually the guy that got the Brawl Out press conference started. That Ace Steel has been hired for the last couple months. Now, Wrestling Observer rejected that, and then Fightful backed it up with, we never said he's working as a producer, but he has been working there, not in person, but for the last couple months. So help me out here, fellas. Let's just take the most popular of the online information without picking sides. Punk does his shtick at the press conference, goes back into the locker room where Ace Steel's wife is, Larry is. The Elite come in. Apparently came through rather aggressively. And then Punk throws the first punch. I don't know which Jackson it was, but apparently knocked him right out. And then all hell breaks loose. Larry gets hurt. The woman in the cast is scared. Ace Steel comes in with Kenny Omega. Apparently Kenny wasn't among the first people to walk in. Ace and Kenny get in there. Kenny tries to save Larry. Ace, during this process, reportedly bites Kenny Omega and throws a chair at one of the other Jacksons. Again, Ace Steel, who, I'm sure has a great wrestling background from what I understand, worked at NXT, which I didn't know till this week. Obviously has a history. Like, if that is true, despite who Punk is, how the fuck did this guy get rehired? How can you rehire him, but Punk and the Elite aren't allowed to talk to one another, but apparently some of both sides want to do that? None of this shit makes any sense to me whatsoever anymore. Like, if one of you guys would have said last Tuesday night, by the way, Steel is with AEW again, I would have called you fucking bananas.
I don't like to pretend I know anything that happened in Brawl Out, but I have heard all of those things, and I have heard, like there was one at one point someone said like Kenny tried to steal the dog, and at one point someone kicked the dog. Like, do you remember we're all like, "Oh, I feel so bad for the dog." Like,
the horns.
I have heard so many different things, and they were all reported by some wrestler or some backstage staffer, and some of them reported by people who didn't know Jack. So I don't like to pretend I know anything about that. Oddly enough, Eric Bischoff came out not too long ago, and I don't agree with a ton of things that he says. He's kind of in the Cornette type of realm for me, where every once in a while he says something I'm like, oh shit, it's actually I believe that. But Bischoff said, wait, we're having problems over the new TV show because of Ace Steel? Like, that's unbelievable. Like, if anyone had any problems with Ace Steel, and then it should be like, fine, you're gone. Like, we don't need you. There's fucking 1,000 people who could do your job. Only one of them, like, I don't believe that CM Punk has 1,000 friends, but there's like Ace Steel is a agent who is good, but like there's a bunch of guys like that. There's a bunch of old retired wrestlers. And they all want to work as agents because they all have no skills other than wrestling. So like super, super replaceable guy. So if there's any sort of problem with this, and if CM Punk is like, hey, I really want Ace Steel there, they really should be like, well, we don't care what you think. You are a wrestler, and this is our guy who helps run our show. Like, it's hard because CM Punk comes with so much. He comes with so much potential. He comes with views. He comes with fans. He's going to bring in people who are WWE only fans.
And baggage.
So they really don't want to let that guy go. But if he's saying like, hey, we need Ace Steel on the show, or I don't want to be there, or I'm pissed at you, or, if he's even just disgruntled, but he says he'll still come and work, like, you can't tell your hockey player who the GM is.
Oh,
You know,
totally agree.
you can't like, even if your hockey player says like, hey, I really don't like this guy in the organization, you're like, okay, well, I mean, if he's a video review guy, I don't know, maybe, and it's your captain of your team or something, I don't know, but like, your players don't tell you how to run your business.
I
It
was
really shouldn't
listening.
be that way.
I was listening to a podcast the other day, and I can't remember who was talking, but they brought up some valid points about, hey, like a good chunk of AEW's fan base are elite fans who, you know, for the better part of it, are fairly new to the American uh, mainstream wrestling scene. You know, there's a big difference between having a worldwide or a national television deal with lots of money and you know, wrestling on New Japan or anywhere else. Like there just is in terms of the mainstream attention that you're getting. And they pointed out that, hey, what Punk is doing is not very dissimilar to things that Hulk Hogan, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock have all done in the past. And his is just magnified by social media, where a lot of those aren't. And I started to like listen to some of the examples, and like frankly, even though I thought they had a very valid point, I think those guys got catered to a lot. I think star players in every sport gets catered to. But to me, like again, like we're talking about a TV show that potentially just brought you in at minimum $52 million a year or more, hinges on, with all due respect to Ace Steel, regardless of what he did or didn't do that night. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, if he did do that stuff, one, why did you rehire him? Like, really, why did you rehire him? It makes no fucking sense. And two, Jericho, according to House of Wrestling and Fightful, is apparently the one that brought up him working back at the same place together, because he's like, fuck all this nonsense, get everybody back in the same place, striving for one goal, which great. Maybe he meant good by that, but sometimes people just don't get along and it's not going to happen. And like it just seems nuts, guys. Like, as big of a Punk guy as I am, it's nuts. If they promise that to him and renege, they're stupid. If he wants it, he's stupid. Again, if one of you guys would have said last week that Ace Steel works for AEW, I would have bet everything I own on you're full of shit. And yet he apparently does. And if I have to take what Jer read off, or not off the top, but before we went live, to me, that sounds like, okay, yeah, Ace Steel's coming back, and Punk's basically putting his ass on the line in every possible way in terms of the documents that are coming through. Hey, you guys fuck up, you're gone, sort of thing. And I mean, obviously, I hope it all works out, but it's just bananas that we're even hearing it. Honestly, just him even being employed with the company, I don't know about anybody else, makes me go, how much of what we know of that night is even true?
It's hard. I mean, I'll let Jared comment on this because he hasn't got to weigh in on it, but
I'll
like,
shut up.
we all gotta remember that this is the wrestling world where, like, you know, people are fighting all the time in every locker room. Like I've said it before on other wrestling shows I've been on, probably on this show as well. There is not a locker room in wrestling history that has not had two guys punch each other every month. It's monthly. Monthly, two guys will punch the shit out of each other. And, you know, whether it's fucking Booker T and Batista being like, hey, like, let's go in that room and beat the shit out of each other. Or it's, you know, like, it could be anyone. It's been agents, it's been wrestlers, it's been, you know, Bret Hart punching Vince McMahon. It's people making a really big deal about this is it's a big deal because they're making a big deal out of it. But I know Jericho wants to probably solve it in the old school way, but I don't think the old school way really works anymore in this age. Like, really, he's probably like, yeah, I've worked with a bunch of guys. I work with guys all the time who I tried to beat the shit out of. Like, it's not a big deal, but I don't think that really works today, is my point that I want to get to. I don't want to stretch it any longer, so Jared can comment on this as well.
Well, I think the linchpin in this is Punk went public with his opinion. And that is the no-no part. You can have heat with people. You can fist fight people in the locker room. You can hash out your differences. But the second you take it out of the locker room, then it becomes an issue. And so that's why we're still talking about this 9 months later. But that's the thing. So let's say a Steele returns. Is his value to the show worth the drama and problems that it could cause? I don't think so. It feels like, and I completely understand Jericho's thinking, and I don't think he's necessarily wrong for the idea of, hey, if we can get Ace Steel back here and smooth things over with that, then we can kind of come to some working agreement or something where parties can be civil with each other, and Ace Steel being kind of, hey, he can come back and work with people and show that, you know, he's a team player again. What's stopping Punk and the Elite? And I think that was kind of Jericho's idea. And then I guess once it became public, everything blew up again, and Punk was upset that kind of the rug got pulled out on what the plans were for Ace Steel. And I feel bad for Jericho because I completely understand why he wanted to do it. Unfortunately, I guess some people are still not okay with it. And as far as them not being able to communicate, the only thing I can think of that would stop that would be legal ramifications still being in the winds, whether they've been settled or whatnot. But that, because it feels like if people want to be adults and talk it out and apologize and whatever they need to do, if parties are willing to do that, then let them do it. You know, I've heard that a member of the Elite wants to discuss it with Punk, and it's not Omega. And based on previous reporting, we had heard that the Bucks wanted absolutely nothing to do with Punk. So obviously something is changing there. Punk has apparently been very open with discussing things. I don't know how humble he is about it, but you know, like the fact that all of this went public is probably the worst part, because if there was a report that, hey, Punk and, you know, the Young Bucks got in a fight backstage, we would be talking about it as much as we talk about Sammy Guevara getting, you know, punched out by Eddie Kingston. You remember that happened? Yeah. So
fought Andrade too, right?
Yeah. So, but that's what I mean. Like, we're not getting updates on, hey, Eddie Kingston, it was seen in a locker room with Sammy Guevara. Like, this shit happens, man. Just
Mark Henry had to work with people who shit in his food.
Exactly. Just leave it the fuck alone, man. Wrestling is full of egotistical assholes who look out for themselves. When Punk says he has AEW's best interests in mind, he's full of shit. Same with Hulk Hogan, same with Shawn Michaels, same with Bret Hart. CM Punk cares about CM Punk. Always has, always will. And that's just the expected mindset of a top guy. Like, I'm not faulting Punk for that. That it is what it is.
That's how they get to the top.
Exactly. And it's how you stay at the top. So him coming into this mindset of AEW where he's not wrong when it's called like the Best Friends League. Where on the in New Japan and Ring of Honor, you didn't get guys like that. You know, guys like Tanahashi and Okada and top Ring of Honor guys didn't have that mindset. You know, they because, like Sean said, I mean, they're not a worldwide known company where they need to have a top guy where they can build the brand around them, because New Japan itself sells tickets. Ring of Honor itself sells tickets. Maybe not so much now, but that's a whole nother story.
I think star power is a big thing too.
Exactly, right? And Punk knows that. Jericho knows that. Daniel's like there's guys there that know how to use their star power. And I think Punk just went about it the wrong way and it blew up. And that's fine. It happens. But I mean, the fact that it's still affecting a TV show 9 months down the road, like, Jesus Christ, man. Fucking just move on.
Yeah. Get the elite signed to their extension, give them their extra fucking money they want to work with the guy, as Fightful has been hinting at for a couple of months now, and fucking move your company forward, because you were literally
if I can get an extra payday for working with a guy I don't really like, fuck yeah.
It's almost a difference between the NFL and the NBA. Like in the NFL, you're going to watch the Cowboys, or you're going to watch, that you're going to watch the team. Like when you go to in the NBA, you're going to watch your favorite player. And when they change teams, you're buying that jersey now. It's all about star power in the NBA, and then I think wrestling is like that right now.
Totally agree, 100%. Also, I know there's people worried about AEW Collision ticket sales. Just let me approach this from a Canada standpoint, because really it's mainly only Canadian tickets that are on sale. Might only be Canadian tickets that are on sale, actually. There's like no promotion for this thing up here at all whatsoever, which is why there's been next to no tickets moved. They're not appearing on Sportsnet. They're not appearing on TSN. There's probably a good reason for that. There has not been a TV deal announced up here yet. I'm not, Punk or not Punk, I'm not worried about them being able to sell out some of the smaller venues they go to. It should be noted, though, their venue for Toronto is Scotiabank Arena, not the Coca-Cola Center. So like that's kind of like the United Center. Like you're looking at 20,000 seats, and I think they've sold 1,600 or so. But again, all they've done is put up like a 6 slideshow card, or a card with 6 events on it on an AEW broadcast. Yeah, it's been on Twitter a little bit, but like in terms of getting out to the Canadian market, there has been nothing. So those people that are out there making doom and gloom shit out of it, give it time, especially if Punk's a part of it, because he'll be the name that they attach to advertising. But like, it's too early to worry about shit like that.
Forbidden Door sold out in like a second.
Right?
It's like a week later.
And it was advertised. I heard the advertisement on the fucking radio about that. So like, I haven't heard one for Collision yet, but I'm sure it's coming.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be a problem.
Last question before we go off air, guys. Back to AEW Double or Nothing. Really quick one. The Battle Royal, Orange Cassidy retaining, or is someone else winning it?
I actually think, almost everywhere I saw predicted that Orange Cassidy would win. I don't know who else will win it, but I do honestly think someone else will win it.
Really?
I think they've kind of built in Orange Cassidy a storyline right now of being like tired and ready to like. He's always coming up like beaten up now. He's not just tired because he's lazy. He's like walking through the door like. So I can see totally that he will lose it to someone, and that he will walk through the door next day and they'll be like, oh, like, what do you think about losing the title? And he'll be like, yeah. And he'll totally get he'll lose zero credibility if they walk through and like, oh man, you just lost the Mid-Atlantic Championship. Like, how do you feel? Like, are you really upset about it? And he'll be like, yeah, I could do with it or without it. And he'll totally get all of his mystique back. It won't matter. I'd say I put it at a 60% chance that he'll retain it, but like I think I'm giving the floor way more chance than anyone I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised necessarily, and I think Kieran's right about the story they're kind of building around Orange Cassidy being slowly worn down on this title run, because he's going out there and working 15 minutes every single week, and nobody else in the company really does that. I think maybe Moxley, or like as far as guys, or maybe Claudio and Wheeler Yuta, but even then, Orange Cassidy is probably the most consistent week to week guy they've got on the roster right now. And I don't know if the Battle Royal is really the spot to do it, to beat him, but I mean, if you want to protect him, you could very easily do that. Technically he didn't get beat. He lost a Battle Royal, right? But I mean, that's more of a heel thing where you want to protect the heel, but I don't know. I don't think he'll drop it, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did do it.
I think he'll keep it. I think it's an easy way for them. I shouldn't say easy way, but it is kind of an easy way for them to be like, hey, we're building him up more. He just defended his title in a Battle Royal and won, So I also don't want to see him lose the title in a Battle Royal. Have him lose in a real match, but that's just me. Anyways, that is going to do it for Chair Shot Chatter tonight. There is WrestleMania, not WrestleMania, pardon me, WWE Night of Champions this Saturday at like 1 o'clock Eastern time, I think it is. And then on Sunday, you have AEW Double or Nothing. Tomorrow, AEW Dynamite. I mean, to me, you're going to know tomorrow what's going on the Punk thing. If they come out and announce, whatever, Idaho or whatever, it's not Punk. If it's Jacksonville, it's not Punk. If it's the United Center and it's titled The Second Coming, it's pretty obvious what's going on. I don't think you'll actually hear his name announced. But AEW Fight Forever, guys, for me, that was my favorite topic tonight. I cannot wait to get my hands on an arcade wrestling game. I love arcade wrestling games from the past, and this looks like it's going to be a nice little homage to that. Jer, what do you got going on? Where can everybody find you at, man?
You can find me on Twitter at Jamie Virtue. You can find me on Facebook, the Dark Match Drive Facebook page. Plenty of wrestling content on there. Daily updates, discussion, all sorts of stuff. It's awesome. Come join us, please. I have a Discord for Dark Match Drive where we talk about the live events, while they're happening, like Dynamite, Raw, pay-per-views. I do some streaming on there of some wrestling, some live streaming, all sorts of wrestling content on there. And I've got a Google Drive for $10 a month, dozens and dozens of wrestling promotions. And hit me up if you're interested.
You can also catch him at NASA, apparently, his new job at NASA.
Yes.
Kieran, what do you got going on, man? Anything? Obviously,
no,
we all hope
so.
you get better quicker, get you back up on your feet.
Yeah, I really need that. Actually, Jared, what are you doing on Sunday? You watching AEW?
Probably, yeah. Where are you? There you are. Probably watching AEW. I can't imagine what else I would have to do.
I'll bring the ice caps.
Sounds good, buddy.
All right, well, you can catch me at Jared's house on Sunday.
You look like my TV.
Everyone's invited.
I'm not high tonight, so I'm confused whether you guys are looking at each other digitally or if you're in the same room. I don't believe you're in the same room, but I think the audience might have believed you were in the same room in there for a second.
Have you not caught on that throughout all of me being on Fandom Empire, I am really good at this? I'm really good at pointing to the proper person.
See, I got my camera all messed up. I'm trying to look up at you, and it looks up that way or that way. Fuck.
There's a trick to it. Like, I knew I was when you asked, I knew I was going to say that, and so I did this little nod, and I went, and I was like, "Oh yeah, Jared's over there."
Look at you giving away trade secrets. Anyways, if you haven't yet, like the stream, comment down below, subscribe. There's a good chance that we're gonna keep doing this every week, but the way we do it might be a little bit different. I'm gonna talk to these guys about it and try to take advantage of YouTube and what they do nowadays. So be on the lookout for that. Dark Match Drive on Facebook. Tune into Fandom Empire. Don't forget, if you're a fan of Westeros, the Legacy of Westeros, new channel, it's up. It's doing great. Thanks for the support over there. And bunch of wrestling stuff this week. Enjoy, people.
Ever will be. I am the game.
I'm better than you,
and you know it.
And I am the voice of the voiceless.
So we are not off as of yet. I just caught on Twitter what the day is today, and apparently it is the anniversary of Owen Hart's death. 24 years ago today, that tragedy happened. Quickly, we've already lost Jerry. He didn't know this was going to happen. Kieran's still here. A brief thought on Owen Hart, man.
Owen Hart, actually, one of the oddest things, we were talking about guys who weren't self-promoting, and the guys who self-promote get to the top. Owen Hart was a wonderful, amazing team player who everyone liked, and perhaps that's why he didn't get the title. But yeah, everyone liked him. Everyone thought it was funny. Everyone was more distraught than most of the wrestlers that unfortunately a lot of them pass away. He was missed a lot, and fantastic performer. And honestly, every time I look at Owen Hart, I see him telling us about his Slammy Award and how he's the greatest because Brett had never won a Slammy, or he cracks me up just thinking about him. He's a fantastic performer, and definitely rest in peace, Owen Hart.
Wrestling has lost a lot of personalities over the year, possibly none brighter than Owen Hart. Definitely thoughts with his family nearly quarter of a century later. It's crazy that it's been so long. Rest in peace, Owen.